Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. It's the Elden Ring walkthrough. Today we will be doing Miquella's Haligtree, so whenever you're ready, go ahead and warp to Haligtree Canopy and we'll get started. Alright, so first of all, if you didn't get it before, there's a stone sword key hanging off the sledge right here, right when you teleport here. I grabbed that already, so just go east. And we'll clear out this right branch over here first. Some sacramental buds there. And then we'll go back to this first branch and take these guys out. They're sitting on these mushrooms. I just love so much when I leave things with 1 HP. Alright, and then after the last one is dead, we'll hop down here. Take out this bigger one. Nice. Excellent start. This is gonna be rough here for a second. Like, already so sketched out by falling off, and I keep having to look away at my screen, at my notes to make sure I grab everything. I don't think these guys will even bother, actually, if I just walk past them. Golden Rune 10 right there. Alright, now there's a whole bunch of these guys up on this ledge up ahead, and we kind of want to not upset them if possible, unless you have some ranged attacks to take them out. So I would recommend crouching here and look down at this branch with the ant on it and just drop down as soon as you can, so hopefully they don't see you. Sounds like they did. So we'll just keep going up this left branch here. Hopefully they stop bothering us. Ow. Still being followed. Yes, alright, I'm gonna go back and deal with the ant then. God, everything just hurts so bad. Alright, now for you. I rolled through that, dude. Everyone saw it. Just grab this item in case things go south here again. Alright, cool. Now we can backtrack a little bit and go up this other branch over here. This place is a lot easier if you have some ranged attacks. Honestly, like a great bow or something probably would be the smart move here, just to knock things off of the branch from range. I didn't really think about that when I was writing the guide, to be honest with you. But I mean, any of these guys who are just perched up on a ledge precariously. Hit him with a great bow and they'd be gone. Is that bubble gonna come all the way over here? Nah, you guys are weak. Alright, where were we? So we got the ants, killed the large guy at the top of the branch. So we'll come back down here. Actually, we are going this way. And we'll jump to that item. Grab that stone sword key, keep moving because there's a flower behind us. We don't want to get lit up by those lasers. Take out these guys. Do I deal with him? I'm just gonna leave him alone. Alright, strip of white flesh. Reserving boluses. Let me crouch here for a second. So, straight ahead there are some rot flowers, Miranda flower, fire grease, and some Aeonian butterflies up ahead. But unless you have like a lot of AoE range spells to burn, I don't feel like that's really worth the headache. So instead, I will actually just drop back down here, which means you have to die. And then we can drop back onto this branch where the ants were. And we will go down. Warming stones, and then we'll start clearing out this branch. Off you go. There's no escape. Alright, there's a little more escape. Up here for the prattling pate, my beloved. And then you can make your way back down here. Alright, so if you look ahead from where these warming stones were, you can see there's another giant one straight ahead. And he's going to start just raining down on us with those really big, very hurtful bubbles. Very strange sentence. We can get to him, but I'm willing to bet if you haven't died yet that your flask situation, like mine, is looking a little grim. So we're just going to play it safe and sprint all the way down the branch underneath him to try to grab a grace up ahead. You can see where the flowers are and like sort of dodge them a little bit to... Ow. Wasn't paying attention. To mitigate a little bit of the scarlet rot buildup here. That's alright. Grace is right up ahead. Just gotta make it down this ladder. And we will rest up. Alright, so I have the memory of a goldfish, and when I backtracked up here, forgot about the big guy sniping at us somehow and just got one shot in the back. Very disrespectful. Hopefully this doesn't happen to you. So this time, I'm just gonna say, very clearly, when we run up this branch, don't forget that there's a guy right above us shooting those bubbles, because they hurt really bad. So we're gonna run most of the way back up. And off to the left, there's going to be one of these, like, clusters of fungus here. Ow. I remember that time I was just too slow. So this one here, you can drop down this branch, and then immediately roll over here for cover, and he can't see you, so... I'm going to pop a rune arc and use Flame Cleanse Me. There we go. Okay, yeah, so next, you can see those guys up top there. We are basically just going to run up this branch, Kill that guy that was shooting at us a second ago, and then go up to that group up ahead. Grabbing this golden rune on the way. Just got scammed out of a crit. That's crazy. Now, if you feel like you can take out all these guys quickly enough that you're not having to, like, fight the whole group at the same time, then be my guest. I'm just gonna run past them, though. The Oracle's Envoy Ashes. My god, the pain. Everything just hurts so much. This is bad. This is like the one place in the game that I can't afford to be looking away from my screen, because everything just one-shots me. When I do these guides, I'm like, just 50% of the time reading off of another screen. Alright, we recovered. So, assuming you're not getting farmed as bad as I am, we'll just run back down this branch where the first large guy was. And then up on this platform, there should be a Lost Ashes of War forest right there. And then you can just make your way right back down to that grace we just got. That's the worst part. We were that close to being done. So now for Haligtree Town. So we'll make our way down here. You're going to get rushed by a Misbegotten right at the top of these stairs. And then try to be sneaky right here and backstab this first guy instead of actually fighting him. Because that's going to minimize the chances of a Leonine Misbegotten hearing you right above us. Because he can walk down here, or jump down if you make too much noise. Golden Rune 10, and then we'll climb up here. Heard us now, so he's over here. That's actually a little surprising. Usually if he doesn't hop down, it means he didn't hear me at all. Very rarely get him to hop over here. I'm gonna jump across here for a little more space to fight him. There we go. And he was guarding the Pearl Drake Talisman +2. Jump back across. Some rock grease. And we'll climb back down the ladder. There we go. Now be careful at the bottom of the staircase. This guy's going to try to push you off. And again, out of this room right here, another guy's going to run out and try to push you off. Everything around here drops so many runes, you might as well just kill them even if they're not explicitly aggressive. I'll watch this right corner for this big guy here. Smithing Stone 8. That was weird. I thought there was one still under the stairs there. Alright, once that room is cleared out, you come outside here. Golden Rune 13. And hop across here. You can ignore that ladder. Basically, there's like 2 routes to get down here. One of which is to sort of take the rooftops, but there's not really any loot up there, so we took the lower route. But that'll essentially just get you back in the direction we just came from. So, and then of course, if you take that ladder, there's a platform below us with a couple of giant Miranda flowers and some Aeonian butterflies, but not really worth the trouble in my opinion. If you do go down there though, you can also go up a ladder. It's right over here, which will lead you to this ledge outside. We can backstab this guy. And then there's one more of these normal Misbegotten there and a Leonine Misbegotten right there. Since these guys just hit like a truck, we're going to play this safe and just run in here. Grab the Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone. And just keep running because there's a Grace right ahead of here. I think I can level up and offload some of these runes. Alright, so we'll grab Golden Rune 12 here and then backtrack just a little bit because we ran past the platform with some more loot on it. You can see these guys hiding around the corner of the door ready to push us off, so don't let them. Somber Smithing Stone 8, and then back to this platform with the Grace. And we can jump down to this roof to the south for a Smithing Stone 6, because I know when I need a Smithing Stone 6, this is the first place I would go looking for it. And then we can drop down on this branch here. Hope they don't see me. I'm going to wait for them to turn around so I can take them more or less one at a time. Alright, they're just running a weird route right now. Grab some Aeonian butterflies. Can't say that word. And another one. It's not what I meant to drink. I'm a mess right now. Why do I have this on? What did I have there before? Alright, now inside the building. Grab a Somber Smithing Stone 9. And we will turn hard right out here to take out a Spirit Collar Snail. These ones are summoning Crystallians, which is incredibly obnoxious. If he charges up that attack, don't go for the Spirit Collar Snail, because if that whole burst hits you while you're trying to kill this thing standing right in front of him, that is going to hurt a lot. The last one there, of course, the Crystallians will despawn after you kill the snail. And then you can hop across here. If you miss slightly, you should be able to land on that platform just below, so don't worry too much about that. I'm just going to play it safe, take all these guys out. Alright, another Smithing Stone 6. Again, why is that here? And then we can, well, you can climb up this ladder or the roots over here to get back to the rooftop we were just at. And I guess this is probably, I don't know. Sure, you can make the jump from here. I usually go from over here. Just go from the high point. Jump across. Golden Rune 12. And then crack open this chest for the Viridian Amber Medallion +2 talisman. It's going to give you a ton more stamina if you're into that sort of thing. And then you can jump across this platform below. And up the ladder. Then on the other side of this rooftop, go down the next ladder, or just drop down if you want. Check this first room on the right here. There's going to be a Misbegotten inside. Guarding Sacramental Bud. And then the next room is one of the bigger ones with an axe, and he's just guarding a Crimson Teardrop Scarab. So unless you need heals, I wouldn't bother with that. Just going to go back outside to this next building. Couple more Misbegotten. Now there's a couple ways you can play this. These battle mages out here are kind of a problem. They're absolute tanks. If you want to be just absolutely safe, this bridge to our left, that platform there, is an elevator that'll take you back to the Haligtree Town Grace. So you can go that way if you're afraid. I'm brave though, so I'm gonna jump out here, and then over here. That's sort of just so you can sneak up on this guy and fight him without getting the attention, hopefully, of the other one. The other one should patrol down the middle bridge and not this one. So you still have to be kind of careful here. But at the very least, if that one does notice you, you should be able to get a jump on this guy. And he seems to have noticed us. So let's just hurry this up. They hit hard. And they have a lot of health. Also, when they do their big hammer attack, it can like hit you through the walls here. So if you are unlucky enough to have to fight both of them up here, you're in for a world of hurt. Now that one's dead, I'm honestly just going to go for the Grace, grabbing these smithing stones on the way. No reason really to risk dying to the other one. But it's a lot safer to make the run over here when only one is shooting spells at you instead of two. And we will rest up, and you can make whatever preparations you need for a boss fight. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, I don't really ever remember to use the physic while I'm doing the walkthrough, but we definitely don't need the Moog tier anymore. So I'll go with lightning attacks, why not? Alright, so this boss is going to be a Loretta, Knight of the Haligtree. This is the real version of the, like, Phantom Loretta we fought back in Carrier Manor, so luckily the moveset will be very similar for the most part. You might remember her specialty, Loretta's Great Bow, which is the same in this fight until she gets to phase 2, where she'll start shooting 4 arrows instead of 1. Also in phase 2, she has a move where she charges up her weapon with magic while the horse rears up. When you see her do that, you can just run away to avoid her first 2 swings and then roll through the follow-up slam. Aside from that, it's pretty much the same fight. She has access to, I guess, some attacks that she doesn't really pull out until phase 2 in the first version of the fight, but it should look pretty familiar. She's a lot more aggressive, though, I feel like. I drank the blue one again. What's wrong with me? Like that attack there, I don't feel like she usually shoots that out of the pommel of her weapon. I don't know if it's a pommel, if it's a polearm, but Who cares? You know what I mean. I don't feel like she does that until phase 2 in the first one, but I might be misremembering. She's a lot more tricky with comboing the glintstone phalanx with her normal attacks, though, I feel like, in this one, so it's hard to go in with a lot of long combos. That looks like phase 2 to me. Little stagger, very nice. That now has more projectiles as well since we're in phase 2. Ow. I was hoping I could roll through that. Run away from that, and then roll through the slam. That one you have to roll through. Don't use the bow. Alright, down she goes. So you get the Loretta's Mastery, Sorcery, and her weapon, Loretta's War Sickle. Don't forget to grab the Grace. More dexterity. Can never have enough. Just kidding, I'm gonna stop here in like 2 levels, but once you're ready, go down these stairs, and that is... well, I shouldn't say that's the worst of it done. This place is so beautiful, I love it. It's even better once we get down here. That's the area, though, that you are just in constant danger of rolling off the edge and dying instantly, which, if you watch the entire walkthrough, you know is my weakness. I haven't gone through and counted it up, but I'm fairly certain most of my deaths have been from falling, honestly. Not even all in combat either. In fact, I feel like most of the falling deaths are probably just from like taking a jump I shouldn't have on Torrent, but down here I would say the enemies are tougher, but there's better places to fight them. So up there you see we get Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone. The loot in this area is just incredible. Way, way, way better than the DLC, but that's a conversation for another day. At the bottom of this elevator, Elphael, Brace of the Haligtree. Incredible. Love this place. Alright, there's going to be a clean rot night here. If you want, you can make a break for that Grace. I personally... actually, I can't remember if she even follows you in there. I like to lure her away from there, though, because Millicent is standing right next to that. And it would just be tragic if she somehow died after getting this far in the game. So I'm just gonna fight this thing out here. There we go. This is a nice spot also to farm their armor set, I feel like. You only get the one spawn, but the Grace is right here, you know? So let's grab that. It's the prayer room Grace, I believe. Rest up and talk to Millicent.
In which case, I am all, but in whatever the case, there is the will, the dignity, the pride. There is the will, the dignity.
Alright, once her dialogue is exhausted, we'll just rest one more time. I think she stays here for a bit. Yep. So, before we start this place, I would recommend upgrading a bow of some kind. It doesn't really matter which bow, and don't feel like you have to max it out, but it will take far less arrows the higher you upgrade it. And we do have a nice collection of smithing stones by now that you can burn through, to be honest. We're just going to use it for a bit of cheesing in a couple places, but it's going to make your life a whole lot easier in these locations. One spot is too far for most spells to reach, and the other spot is going to be at a point where there's a good chance you might not have any cerulean flasks left to replenish your spells. If you don't have a bow upgraded yet, I would recommend the pulley bow, because it only requires 11 strength and dexterity to hold, and has super high range built into it. I'd also take the time to craft some arrows, preferably fire arrows of some kind. I'm gonna level up here, I'm like 100 runes short, or actually I can just kill this thing real quick. We're gonna be fighting a couple of Erdtree avatars, so fire is good here. And then also some fire pots and red main pots too while you're at it. You don't have to equip any of this stuff yet, but what am I missing here? Oh, I'm out of mushrooms, that's right. Alright, well, I'll be right back in that case. But yeah, let me just finish that thought. So you don't have to equip any of that stuff yet. Don't worry about not being able to like roll with the bow equipped or cluttering up your hotbar with the throwing pots. Now would just probably be the best time to make sure you have the supplies to craft them, which, as you can see, I do not. Chances are you have a lot of smoldering butterflies to make this stuff since they're super common, but just in case you need some, you can farm them from there's some burning slugs in this field kind of near the Coliseum in Limgrave. I can't remember if it's this field or this next one down here, but check in that spot. Or Eastern Tablelands right over here. There's a camp nearby, has a bunch of slugs, so you can just make a loop around the outside of this fire monk camp here as many times as you need to get smoldering butterflies. For the thin beast bones to make the arrows, you can of course just get them from killing most wildlife, or if you have the Bone Peddler's Bell Bearing that comes from killing the Bell Bearing Hunter at Warmaster's Shack back in Limgrave, the first one we killed in the walkthrough, you should be able to just buy them from the Twin Maiden Husks at Round Table Hold. And for the throwing pots, hopefully you have some of the stuff already, but again, if not, my favorite place to pick mushrooms is around Folly on the Lake, right here in Liurnia. Shown that in the last couple of episodes. Where are you? It's over here. Yeah, I'm guessing 90% or 99% of you will probably have enough of those materials saved up, but I figured I'd just throw that information out there just in case, so you don't have to go looking all over the world for those materials. But I'm going to grab some mushrooms real quick. If you can spare a spell slot, I would also throw on a healing incantation to deal with some revenants later. We won't see them for a while, so it's not super important right now. But if you can't spare the slot, I will try my best to remind you again later. Alright, I am ready to go. We're on the rune arc because I'm not afraid of anything. 89 runes left in the pocket. Let's do this thing. So these glowing enemies up ahead, those guys will explode when you kill them, but... or just in general, I guess. If you backstab them, or if you kill them before they explode, they you don't have to worry about it. Stuck in here on the left. Now, a lot of this first section here, you probably could just sneak through and, you know, get some easy backstabs and stuff if you really wanted to. I usually just clear everything out, though, because everything gives so many runes. You saw there, I literally walked out here with 89 runes. We're already at 14,000 just from killing normal, like, super basic guard enemies. So, probably worth the trouble of clearing them out. There's a part I really think you should sneak past, I'll let you know, but... we're gonna ignore this room on the side for right now. We'll be back here in a bit. Go, get some bolts. Hop down here. Quickly backstab this guy and then watch behind. This guy with a spear is going to charge over to you. More bolts. Lightning great bolts. And then we're going to jump over the railing onto the support beam here. And then hop out here. Sometimes there's a clean rot knight here. But... well, it spawns in this room up ahead. Sometimes, though, it'll hear you when you're fighting things upstairs there, and will, like, wander out here, so it might be standing outside here. Another thing that can happen is it tries to wander all the way up there to get you, and it, like, jumps on the support beam over here and ends up, like, falling off and dying or something. A A lot of things can happen, but it's supposed to just be in this room here. There we go. I'm gonna take you out. For one more free heal. Or not. Run here, get the Cleanrot Knight Finlay Ashes, and that should be our last legendary Ashen Remain for that achievement. And then we'll go back outside and hop back up onto... Just kidding, not that one. The one over here to the left. Climb up to the top. Open this for an somber ancient dragon smithing stone. Continue along this ledge here, and there will be a seedbed curse. If you got one from Bogart, this should be the 5th one, I believe. Or maybe I've given some to Dung Eater already. If you didn't get one from Bogart, then that will be your 4th one. But there's one more in this area. But we'll go back at the end and give those to Dung Eater. So let's go back down here. And then I'll hop up here. Wow, that's crazy, dude. You know what's funny? I didn't even really have to climb up there. We were dropping straight back down the stairs anyway. Alright, so instead, literally just drop straight down. Grab this immunizing white cured meat. Run up here, we'll take out these 2 soldiers. Yeah, note to self, don't wake up at 6 AM and do Haligtree first thing in the morning. Like, eat some breakfast first or something. We'll continue along this ledge. Watch out if he's not all the way walked up this far. Watch out on the right here. Bunch of soldiers in here. Don't want to get ambushed. Smithing stone 7. Couple more right here. And that putrid tree avatar down there, as you saw, can notice us up here and start shooting some of those like holy swords that they do. So keep your head down if possible. Crack this open with a stone sword key. And loot the chests for the triple rings of light incantation. But yeah, this guy pretty much patrols this entire bridge, so there's plenty of room to fight it with melee when we do get down there. But if you wanted to, you could start chipping away at it with arrows from here. They are immune to bleed, rot, and poison though, so don't waste a bunch of arrows trying to proc those. I would go with fire damage if you can. That's why I told you to craft the fire arrows. But I would save this guy a bit longer. Just come back here when you're 100% sure that either you're not going to run out of arrows and can just kill him right now, or that you're not going to like get him low and then die on the way to him to finish him off, you know? So go back these stairs. I don't know why I'm still crouching. There's 2 Cleanrot Knights in this room, which you want to fight one at a time, so try to lure them outside. The other one is right around that corner behind that pillar, so I'm going to hit this guy with a bow. Get him to come out here. I hate when they do this where they can like see me through the wall and just keep trying to use ranged attacks. Take your time, man. I got nowhere to be. Oh nice, got the Halo Scythe. And the Cleanrot armor, let's go. Alright, smithing stone 7 right there, and then you can go outside on this ledge for a golden rune 10. And we'll go through this next exit. Take out the soldiers outside. Ow. You guys are really coordinating your attacks well today. I'm proud of you, but I also am incredibly frustrated. Alright, now we'll go into this room on the left. Kill this guy under the branch. And up here, all the way to the top first, I think. Just kidding. That's where the seedbed curse was. Old Fang, and then there'll be a guy around the corner. And Aeonian butterflies. I'm just going to start saying butterflies because I can't say Aeonian today. And then be careful because there's like, they might not be able to shoot you, but there are ballistas down there and across the way straight ahead. So, don't linger basically in any of the areas for the next couple of minutes. So we'll go down this support beam. And there's some flowers up here that you could kill if you want, but I'm just going to hop down here. And then in this room, also not worth the effort. So I have a second to breathe, I'll explain why. But come up here and kill these guys. And then the torch one over here. Some Haligtree soldier ashes. Oh my god, this guy. Okay, yeah, so in that room, there are tons of soldiers. Some of them just came outside, obviously, but there are also 2 clean rot knights to deal with, and all there is for loot in there are warming stones and a stack of like 10 spirit flame arrows, so yeah, not really worth fighting in my opinion. Grab a smithing stone 8 right there, and then once you're ready, you want to go up this beam far enough that you feel comfortable making the jump to that platform over there. Nice. That's fine. We can recover. Because in here, there's Grace. Rest quickly because that thing can come inside, as can the knights. And then up the ladder to miss the loot that we just missed. Or to get the loot we just missed. Miss the loot we missed. That makes so much sense. Haligtree Knight Helm, and then back down. So, here's the thing. Back up, well, where we just came from, there are those 2 ballista guys, right? And they're looking down on the courtyard. So, ideally, what happens is you don't die right there, you don't miss that jump, and you can come in here and not rest. So then you'd be sitting in a position where the courtyard is still full, but those guys on the ballistas right over there, can't see them now, but those guys are dead. That was the original plan. It didn't work out because I missed the jump like an idiot. So here's the situation. There are a couple of items out here on the ballistas that are in front of the Erdtree avatar, and the safest way to get them, in my opinion, would be to cheese this putrid avatar with those fire pots I told you to make earlier, and then kill or pull the ballista guys back in the Grace room that we're in right now with a bow, and then you can run over there and grab the items. There will be 2 knights on either side of the putrid avatar out here, and they're a huge pain, so I would just run past them personally. And since we've cleared out nearly this whole place, if you didn't rest, you could just keep running freely as far back as you needed toward the prayer room grace until you lose them if they do chase you, if these 2 knights do chase you. We're actually going to go back to the room we skipped at the beginning near the prayer room grace right after this, so that's a convenient way to do it since you won't have to respawn any enemies and fight through them again. And again, this is assuming you didn't just miss the jump like I did and were forced to rest. Like if everything here is still dead for you and you haven't rested, that would be one plan, one way to tackle this. The problem is you'll pretty much have to rest again right after that to replenish your health and flasks so you can continue clearing this place. So there's really no way around respawning a few enemies ultimately. If you can, I would still try to at least cheese this putrid avatar and the ballista guys ahead before you rest though, because if you want the items ahead, it'll be easier to grab if you're not being jumped by 2 knights, the putrid avatar, those 2 ballistas, and the ballista guys we killed a second ago who are also aiming at the courtyard. All that being said, neither of the items I'm referring to are worth all this hassle, but it's a walkthrough, so I'm going to show them, or show you how to get them anyway. If you do want to clear it though without resting, you can grab this item nearby first of all. Smithing Stone 6, yay, needed those. And then we'll take those red main pots and fire arrows. Neither of these pots consume any FP, so again, if you haven't died yet and you're low on FP, you'd still be able to use these, which is nice. And we will get to work on this guy. Now, once you engage him, sometimes it'll bug out and just stand here by the gate. Sometimes it'll chase you inside right away. Either way, just stay out of range of its melee swings and be ready to dodge the holy swords if it summons them. And it cannot fit through this next doorway up ahead. So if you go through there to retreat, you can keep shooting at it. You should be good to go. And if he resets, he'll just teleport back here, but he won't get a heal, so... This guy's got a whole lot of health. And this room is empty except for enemies on the other side of this route, so you're pretty safe in here. There he goes, he's resetting. You got spells and everything, obviously. Do your thing here, but I do not. That's crazy. Alright, down he goes. That should get us a Lord's Rune. Now for these guys... Come on now. Sometimes they'll be stubborn and not come off of the ballista if you like do no damage to them. You could try like the weapon art on your bow too. You might have Mighty Shot on it if you're using a bow with that, and that should like stagger them off of it. Also throw on the arrow's reach talisman if you need some more range. Yeah, see this guy's like not coming off for some reason. But this bow is nice and upgraded, so he's gonna die anyway. Now then. Those guys are taken care of. I had to rest, so the ballista guys up to the left will still be alive, so keep those ones in mind. 2 knights on either side here. So you want to be careful of those guys. If you can fight them if you want, obviously. They're not pushovers in the slightest. They hit super hard. They have a ton of HP, and they can fully heal themselves once. So I just, I don't like it. I want to run past them. Before you do run past them, know there's a sacramental bud off to the right. You're going to see a glowing purple corpse. It's going to look really enticing, but it's a sacramental bud, which means you probably aren't going to use it. So, not really worth the trouble. Otherwise, those guys down. Let's run past here. I missed. That's crazy. Terrio Leaf. Golden Rune 11. And if we keep running up ahead, we'll be back in that room with the 2 Clean Rot Knights. So, you know, this is why I was saying, if everything's already dead, this is a lot easier. Makes a lot more sense to run this way. Otherwise, honestly, it might just be worth going, okay, I'll go this way. That's fine. Might just be worth going back to the Grace Room. Remember when I said these 2 items aren't worth the hassle? That's code for every time I play this game, I ignore them. The things we do for a 100% walkthrough. Alright, now that that's taken care of, the other thing you could do if you still haven't rested somehow is go back to that putrid avatar and start sniping at him if you want, the one that was on the bridge. But obviously we are well past that point, so I'm going to warp back to the prayer room. So yeah, now we're going to go back to that room we skipped over. So we just got to fight through a few enemies again here. And that would be the room right there. But before we do that, like I said, now would be a good time to get to work on that avatar down on the bridge, because that's where we're headed. So before we go up there, we could also come back down here towards where we got that triple Rings of Light incantation and start sniping him from this balcony. I hate that you guys are strong and I can't just mindlessly R1 spam to get through you anymore. So, I would be the first to admit this strategy is extremely inconsistent, so you have to be patient. I've seen all kinds of wacky stuff happen, from him constantly resetting to the north end of the bridge to falling off the bridge entirely. If he falls like in this direction towards you, you can still usually get an angle to shoot at him, and if you give it some time or move around, it'll probably reset and go back up to the top of the bridge. Either way, wherever you are, you can be hit by the holy projectiles if he chooses to summon those. So you have to get a bit creative using these like railings on the edge of this ledge here as cover. There are plenty of different places in this zone that you can find a good angle to cheese this fight, I'm sure, with a bow. Where did he just go? Wait. Oh, yeah, he's over there. Okay. But there's one more spot I like if you do have access to some spells. I'll show you that in a second, but I'm going to try softening him up here with some arrows to show this off real quick. You can throw on some bow enhancing talismans like the arrow sting talisman that's literally just going to make your arrows hit harder, and the arrows reach talisman, which will make them fly farther. Did not mean to roll forward. That could have ended badly. So yeah, see, I can get an angle here if I just pop slightly above the ledge, and then these things can't hit me, but you have to kind of time it right. Throw on the Haligtree Talisman too as well. Get some holy damage negation. But yeah, this is one option if you don't want to go down there and fight him with melee. Because like you saw with the last one, I mean you can see with this guy's health bar too. They're absolute tanks. I would like to finish this walkthrough before I retire though, so I'm just going to go down there and fight him the old-fashioned way. And to do that, we will go through that room I pointed out before. Almost missed you. Also don't need the arrow talismans anymore. Grab the smithing stone 8, hop up onto this root here. And then onto the support beam. And grab the Miquella Knight sword. Really can't talk today. And if the holy projectiles weren't a factor, I'd say this is the best spot to fight from range, but that's just not the case, unfortunately. This tower also has an entrance for an elevator shortcut later, but for now, we're just going to jump down to the bridge. We can grab this since he's not looking. And what you can do is run up these stairs to the left here. And you can lure the avatar to the doorway and then cheese it from here. Just be careful not to get hit through the wall and by the projectiles as usual. And this spot I think is a lot better if you are a caster, because you can just, you know, he'll plug up this doorway here and you can just stand here and lay into him right through it. Before I do that, we'll take out this Crystallion though. There's Somber Smithing Stone 9, and then we'll go back for him. They also craft up some more fire pots now as well if you wanted to use those to cheese him from the doorway. It's not like these guys are really any more complicated than other tree avatars we fought. It's just that they hit so hard and have so much health, so it's like you just can be sitting here all day and then get one shot randomly, and it's really annoying. So just wanted to throw out all these cheese tactics just in case you're interested. I also just remembered I decided earlier I was just going to fight him with melee. I don't know why, I just lured him all the way to the end of the bridge. Oh, let me get the crit. Bastard. Never fight things on stairs. It's not worth the potential heartbreak. Alright, so once he is dead, get the rotten staff. Grab this item here if you didn't earlier, and all the way at the end we got another somber ancient dragon smithing stone. And then from here you have two options. If you don't need another seedbed curse, if you're confident you already have 5, or maybe if you don't have 5 on you, you've already, like me, given at least 1 to Dung Eater, or if you don't need Dung Eater at all, you can just hop over this railing to get down to the bottom level, and we will be down there in just a second. If you do need one more seedbed curse, however, we're going to run back to the staircase leading up to the Crystallium. And after this very short detour, we'll wind up down there, so if you end up just hopping over the railing and don't need this, then feel free to just sit tight for a second. We'll hop over here, this ledge, and then this doorway you can see right ahead there, a little light poking out. That's the room with the 2 Clean Rot Knights, so if you didn't want to come from this way, you could also just hop over the railing from that staircase as well. We'll hop over here, down here into this very dark room. And in here for the final seedbed curse. So once again, if you did get one from Bogart's questline, then there's actually 6 in the game, and that would be number 6. Otherwise, if you saved him, that's number 5. So you can still meet that requirement of giving Dung Eater 5 seedbed curses if you do choose to save him earlier in the game. Now down here there are 3 Crystallians, and you can fight them one at a time if you keep them away from each other, which isn't too hard to do, but I like to drop as close as I can to this one just to be safe. And do not go outside because there are revenants out there, and they will, I don't need to tell you what happens if a revenant sees you. We especially don't want to deal with that while we're fighting Crystallians, that's for sure. Now these 2 closest to the exit are guarding a somber smithing stone 9, which we'll pick up from that corpse here in a second. The one in the dark corner that we haven't fought yet is just guarding a pickled turtleneck, so if you don't care about that, you can just leave the 3rd one alone if you want. There we go, somber smithing stone 9. You know what I should have done in hindsight is put on the assassin's cerulean dagger and gotten some FP back from that, because I only have 1 blue flask, and we're gonna need healing out here. Let's throw on a rune arc here so I can actually use heal. See that monster out there. And then I'll use some boluses so I don't waste FP. And then what you can do here is summon, what's her name? Finger Puppet something. Finger Maiden Therolina Puppet, because she spams AoE healing incantations, so she can help you just shut down these revenants. So let's go out here a little bit further so I can summon. Or maybe I just don't have the FP right now to summon her. I don't, unfortunate. Alright, well we'll do it ourselves then. I'll just go for these follow-up crits to conserve FP. And they all drop a Ghost Glove Wart 9 as well, so I do feel like they're worth the trouble of killing. But after you kill him, grab that Lord's Rune there, and then back here there's going to be another one. And I would always lure them back towards the last one you killed, just so that you don't accidentally go into the next section and spawn in a second one. Get the jump on them here if you like see the little particle effect where they spawn. Am I about to fall under the earth? Okay, we made it back. Some beast blood in there. There you are. Oh, he didn't even hear me. Okay, let's try to sneak up on him. That didn't work. Oh, I'm out. I'm out. Oh, no. Oh, no. Play the corner. Got him. He teleported behind me. Rookie mistake. Alright, that was sketchy. I should have trusted myself. I knew he spawned in this next section, and then I only have one earbud in right now, so it sounded like he spawned behind me. My audio wasn't there. But there's one more to deal with here. Only got one heal left. Make it count. Well, there's more to deal with, but there is only one more over here. And I'm stupid. I was getting crits. I should have put the blue thing back on. Got a golden rune 12 there. Open now with a stone sword key, and we get Marika's sword seal, another legendary talisman. And now we make our way back. Some more butterflies there as well. Imagine if you got all the way here and didn't have a stone sword key. I would uninstall faster than I can blink. Now, all the way back at the north end here, there's this ladder on the right that's gonna go up to the room that had like that we dropped to. There's that spot. We were up on the support beam. It's like right above us, and then I said there's some ballistas on the left and there's some flowers up here that you can fight, but I'm just gonna drop down. And then we ran up some stairs up there, and that's where the two ballista guys overlooking the courtyard with the putrid avatar were. So this room up here is the one that had all the enemies and the clean rot knights and just had like bad loot in it essentially. So there's really no reason to go up there. And then in this courtyard to the left here, there's going to be one more revenant. You can see the smoke coming out of the ground right there, and he is guarding a smithing stone 8. And then the ladder right there behind him leads us back up to that same courtyard with where the avatar was before. You can certainly go in there and risk it all for the smithing stone 8, but I am just in no position to fight them right now, so I am personally going to warp to Elphael Inner Wall. Alright, now before we continue, we're done dealing with revenants, so you can take off a healing incantation. You won't need that anymore, but you should trade it out for Flame Cleanse Me because there will be lots of rot up ahead. These crystallians all inflict rot, so I'd highly recommend pulling them one at a time with a bow and just fighting them over here in this area. You got the entire hallway to work with. They're annoying enough on their own, let alone in a group of 3, and somehow even worse by inflicting rot, so I'm definitely not down with the idea of fighting a trio. There's one down. Is he coming? Alright, and just one last one of the caster ones, which means free backstabs. Alright, so once they're dead, you can safely loot this chest for the rotten crystal sword. And then we will go all the way to the end of this hallway over here. Heroes Rune 5. And you can climb this branch here. And in here, there's going to be a Kindred of Rot right below us. And then at the end of this branch, let's deal with this one first, I suppose. There we go. As I was saying, at the end of this branch over here, there is another one. Pull him over here. I never come up here. Just wanted to see what it was like. Alright, and then if you, well, he's guarding a corpse over there with some rot grease, and you're welcome to go get it to see how horrible it is to walk through this stuff without something that has quick step on it, so I would recommend putting something with quick step on it on your character, like any old dagger. And then also around this area there are some Aeonian butterflies. There's some around that center rock, there's some around the fallen pillar past them, and there are a bunch of little like baby versions of that guy we just killed. So you are welcome to grab all of those, but I am just going to play it safe and try not to get stun locked and rotted to death, so I'm just gonna quick step my way all the way over here, and we're probably gonna get rotted anyway, but we can always use Flame Cleanse Me. There we go. Up here, grab some more butterflies. Hit it with the cleanse, and then we will drop down to this tree root here. Follow it over here, hop onto the next one. And just ignore the sounds behind us and run in here. Grab a Golden Rune 10, roll down, and at the end here we will find a Grace. Now if you have any super hard-hitting long-range spell, incantation, or weapon art, make sure you have it ready. Maybe even bring a couple extra blue flasks to spam it. Feel free to craft some more fire arrows too if you want. Really any range damage that you can muster, and fire damage would be best. And I'll explain that in just a second. But let's go back up here. Actually, while you're at it, I would even go so far as to mix in an Opaline Bubble Tear in your Wondrous Physics, because it'll, did I say physics? Physic, just one. It'll let us eat an extra hit and make us quicker to recover, which could come in handy here in a second if things go the unlucky way. We'll run up here, get some butterflies. Are you just impossible to hit? Why are you still alive? That didn't need to be as hard as it was. Alright, so up here, tree branch somewhere, there you are. I am blind. And you will see an item up ahead in the middle of a pool of rot. Before we go down there, I'm going to explain what's going to happen. We're going to climb up this hill to the left. Well, there's two options. You can climb up the hill to the left and drop down to land on that item and just not grab it because there's not going to be enough time. Once you land, a rot ulcerated tree spirit is going to emerge to fight us. I don't even need to explain why this is one of the worst encounters in the entire game for a melee build, but unfortunately killing it is necessary to complete Millicent's questline. Now I said there are two options. One is to drop off that ledge there and land on it, and the reason I say that is because I can't remember if the first time you fight it, if you need to do that, or if you can trigger it by just stepping into the rot here from the shore right in front of us. You might be able to do that. We'll try both. But the reason I recommended the bubble is because there's a chance when you drop down that you might get hit by it, like unburrowing itself from underground. So this would just save you the damage of doing that. The plan is simple though. When it spawns, we're going to run back to this exact spot on the branch by jumping off of the edge here and landing on this section down here, and then just running back up top. And obviously it cannot follow us over here. There's a giant abyss below, so we'll be safe to cheese it from range. So that's the plan. We're going to try this both ways. And just see, there should be a little rumble here. There we go. Okay, so you don't need to climb all the way up that hill. Good to know. But immediately turn around and jump over here, because it can get to us very quickly. Oh, it didn't even chase that time. That's crazy. Alright, well, from here you're good. Now we just start spamming range attacks. So let me throw my bow back on. And I'm not in combat, so I can actually re-up on arrows. Just kidding, I'm out of bones. I'll cut to when I kill it or to when I run out of arrows, don't worry. And also forgot arrow talismans as well. And it is finally dead. It only took about 1,000 arrows, but that's alright. Got the job done. So you get a golden seed from that. Incredible reward. And we will run over here, grab the Great Grave Gloveworts, and then up on this hill nearby, now that it's dead, a couple of summon signs are going to appear, which are for Millicent's quest, but just ignore them for right now and warp back to Caelid to speak to Gowry. All we need is for those to have appeared. And he is crying his eyes out. So go, why are you crying? And then make sure you talk to him until his dialogue is exhausted, because this menu option won't change between the second and third time you talk to him. So there you go. Alright, sorry for the weird cut, but warp back to Drainage Channel once you're done speaking to Gowry, and we're back here by the summon signs for Millicent's questline. So, you should know that this is probably the biggest choice you'll have to make in this game, aside from committing to an ending. Maybe even more so, because this potentially has a massive influence on which ending you get. So as Gowry just explained, if you didn't skip through his dialogue, Millicent is going to be fighting her sisters, and we have to make a choice between helping her or betraying her. Let's start with the story implications of that. If we help Millicent, she won't reach her true potential and become, as Gowry stated, a Scarlet Valkyrie. Does Millicent want that? Is that a good thing? We don't really know for sure. But as far as we know, it won't happen if we help her survive this fight. Since this is a walkthrough and I'm spoiling what happens anyway, I'll just tell you that after you make the choice to help her, you find out that she does not, in fact, want that to happen. So this is just the help Millicent option through and through. You don't betray her, you help her fight off her sisters, and you help her basically go out the way that she wants. After the fight, Millicent will, however, die. If you go with this option, Gowry will be extremely upset when you return to him, and that will be the end of his questline. It's going to be the end of his questline no matter which way you go, but he will be alive in this scenario, just very sad. If you betray Millicent, she will bloom as Gowry wanted. She will, I guess, presumably go on to become a Scarlet Valkyrie, but that isn't something we really get to see clearly in-game. She just blooms into a giant flower. Again, even though it's not something Millicent wanted, we don't really know if this is like a good thing or bad thing overall, so just No, from a story perspective, this choice essentially comes down to siding with Gallery or Millicent. If you go with this option and betray Millicent, Gallery will actually die, and that will be the end of his questline still. Now, Gallery's rewards, whether or if he dies, if you go back to his location, are the Flock's Canvas Talisman, which increases the strength of your incantations by 8%. It's basically just a straight upgrade to, I think it's the Faithful's Canvas Talisman is the baseline one. Double check. Yeah, so this one raises potency of incantations. The Flock's Talisman that you get from Gallery will greatly raise potency of incantations. Same as like this one for sorcerers. You have raises potency and greatly raises potency. And then you also get Gallery's Bell Bearing, so you can take that back to the Twin Maiden Husks at Round Table Hold and buy whatever spells, incantations he was selling that you didn't get already. Now, like I said, Gallery is just going to be like inconsolably upset if you don't kill Millicent, which means he has nothing more for us. That's just the end of it. So it's safe to kill him for his rewards. So whichever way you go, you can get Gallery's rewards. One way he'll die automatically, the other way you can just go back and kill him. It'll be the same rewards either way. So I wouldn't worry about that. But you should definitely consider the rewards and consequences for the Millicent part of this. For the rewards, the choice here is much more difficult. If you help Millicent, you're rewarded with the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, which is a talisman that increases your attack power with successive attacks. We already have the regular Winged Sword Insignia. The Rotten version is just a straight upgrade to that. You also get the Unalloyed Gold Needle, which is super important, and I'll talk about that as far as like consequences and stuff go here in a second. If you betray Millicent, you're rewarded with Millicent's Prosthesis, but not the Unalloyed Gold Needle. Now, Millicent's Prosthesis is a super good talisman. It basically has the effects of the Winged Sword Insignia and the... what's it called? The Prosthesis Wearer Heirloom mixed into one. So if you equip that talisman, you get +5 dexterity levels, and you also get the boost power with successive attacks effects. Now, the effectiveness of that boosting power with successive attacks effect on Millicent's Prosthesis lands somewhere between the Winged Sword Insignia and the Rotten Sword Insignia. It's better than this one, but it's slightly worse than the Rotten Sword Insignia. But you basically get the effect of two talismans mixed into one, because you also get the extra dexterity. It's super good. Now, for the consequences of this as it pertains to the end of the game, as I've mentioned previously, you will have access to all of the endings of the game by following this entire walkthrough. There are 6 endings, one of which is the Frenzied Flame ending. If you inherit the Frenzied Flame, you commit to that ending. You will not have the opportunity to pick any of the other options at the end of the game, whether you did the quest lines for them or not. If you do not inherit the Frenzied Flame, then after we kill the final boss, you can freely choose whichever one of the other endings you want when we reach that point in the game, since we have them all set up. If you find yourself in a position where you inherit the Frenzied Flame either by accident or intentionally, but then you change your mind and want to go with a different ending, there is one way and one way only to undo that choice, and it requires the Unalloyed Gold Needle, which means you have to help Millicent. The only way that you can get out of the Frenzied Flame ending, if you get that and decide you don't want it, is to do Millicent's questline and help her at the end here to get the Unalloyed Gold Needle. That is the only way. I'm going to be taking that route in this playthrough, since this is focused on showing how to do all the endings, but hopefully this explanation helps you make a well-informed choice. It's kind of unfortunate that you have to choose between very, very powerful rewards, especially since Millicent is either giving them to you as she dies, or you take them by force, but that's just the way it is. So choose whether you want to help Millicent or betray Millicent and pick the corresponding summon sign. I am going to help her be summoned to assist Millicent. And now we have a nightmare fight with her 4 sisters over this pool of rot, of course. Now, it's kind of... you have a lot to pick from here. They're all obnoxious in their own special way. Ow. And they all hurt really bad. And it's kind of going to come down to luck, whichever one decides to go for you and which ones go for Millicent. It's pretty much random every time. Maybe there's a way to make it more consistent by standing in a certain place or something, who knows. Oh god, I got the spear one now. Worst case scenario. Millicent can hold out for quite a while, but she can't do it for very long with 3 of them, so you really just want to try to kill one as soon as possible. She can hold her own against 2 for a pretty damn long time though, so... And if she does die, you'll just go back to your world. You don't have to worry about this just being, you know, the most stressful fight of your life. Oh yeah, she's going to town on them. I think she killed both of them. I'll let you have the honors. Nice. As you saw, she just absolutely dumpstered the other 2, so... But 3 is a bit much for her. Part of the reason she can do that is because she has access to Waterfowl Dance, and if you don't know what that means, you're about to find out here in a few minutes. But like I said, for helping her get the Rotten Sword insignia, and then on the southwest shore over there, that little glow, you can see her. Get some very sad dialogue here.
Thank you. Without your I feel thank you. But I paused. I took out hell that if I would rather please. The scarlet soon cursely. I wouldn't want please. The scarlet soon cursely. I wouldn't want
Heartbreaking ending. So go ahead and rest or reset the game rather, reload. And once you return, you will have the unalloyed gold needle here sitting on her corpse. After you're finished with Millicent, you can go back to Gowry's shack if you would like for his loot. I'll just do that right now. That's not the right place. And you can talk to him, and he just is basically talking to himself and is super disappointed. So if you want to hear that, exhaust his dialogue, and then you can kill him if you'd like. To get his rewards. And with that, you can warp back to the drainage channel Grace one more time here. And we will get a move on. Go out this east exit. Follow this tree root off to the left until you can drop onto a support beam. And use that to get to the next route. To get to the next support beam. To get to the next route. And then up to the roof. There are 2 holes you can fall down. This one on the side is safer, I think, so you can fall onto the support beam. And then duck over here and try not to get lit up by the pest threads. And then we'll just drop down here and take these guys out as quick as possible. Crack open this chest for the Dragon Crest Great Shield Legendary Talisman. I'm going to actually throw that on. I definitely don't need these bow ones anymore. More stamina regen never hurt anybody. Now we'll drop on this ledge to the right, the southernmost one. Take out this guy. Go outside here for a butterfly. And then drop down, and before we do anything else, just to be safe, you can run down here and take this lift down to get to a Grace. We'll touch that and then go back upstairs and finish this area out. Alright, got some butterflies there, and then you can go out the front door, and we will clear this left side first. Just make your way down this hill at your own pace, clearing out all the enemies on the way. That was absolutely violent. Lots of opportunities for backstabs here. Everyone's kind of preoccupied worshipping. Grab Ghost Glove Wart 7 there. Where did he go? There you are. Absolute massacre happening right now. The Newman's Rune there. Ghost Glove War 8. Sneak around the back for that guy. Ghost Glove War 7. Ghost Glove Wart Picker's Bell Bearing 3 and a Ghost Glove Wart 9. And that Bell Bearing should let you buy an infinite supply of Ghost Glove Wart 7 and 8s from the Twin Maiden Husk back at Round Table Hold. All that out of the way, you can make your way over to this other side of the hill, and as soon as you round this corner, you're going to check the right for a knight. Well, this corner, I guess. Sneak 100. Alright, so as you saw there, those guys have a whole lot of health. And, well, we got hit by one earlier in the video too, so they do a lot of damage. Now, there's really not a whole lot on this side of the hill. Loot's very sparse, and you have to fight a lot harder for it with all these knights around. So, you know, just test your willpower on that guy and decide if you want to fight several more of them and a bunch of soldiers for just 3 Arteria leaves and a Hero's Rune 5. Or you can just run down here with a Sacrificial Twig equipped or something. Just make a suicide run for it. But there's the Arteria leaf. There's the Hero's Rune 5, and all around here, if you keep going down the hill and just check the base of like basically every tree, there are Miquella's lilies just everywhere. Honestly, that run was not too bad. Everyone's kind of busy just sitting and staring at stuff. But I'm definitely not going to fight everything, so I'm going back to this grace. And I can warp now. So let's go down to Haligtree Roots, that grace that we just unlocked. And we'll go through this doorway over here to the southeast. Grab all the Aeonian butterflies in here. Grab the Traveler's sets. And right here is a lift that takes us up to the tower we jumped down from to fight the first putrid avatar earlier. Or I guess it's the second one we fought, but the first one we saw. And unless I'm missing something, which I very well could be, I kind of feel like there's so much platforming in this zone that this elevator is just kind of here to make it easier to get over to the half that you might not have gone to while you were clearing it the first time, and that you might not have gone back for otherwise, because then you'd have to get through a bunch of enemies. I don't know. It's a weird place for an elevator. But anyway, down at this Grace, if you look ahead, you'll see the entrance to the next boss fight. Now this one can be a little tricky. So, her name is Malenia, Blade of Miquella, just in case she hasn't told you yet. But if you're watching this, you probably lost count of how many times you've heard that already. This fight really needs no introduction, but there are probably a couple specific parts of it that you're struggling with in particular, and I will try to include timestamps to skip to those parts if you would like. But before you do, I wanted to give a quick introduction here. There are a lot of guides for beating this boss on the internet, both in video format on YouTube as well as like written ones under desperate posts on Reddit and other forums. Now, 2+ years after release, I'm obviously not going to take credit for discovering any of the advice I'm about to give you, since it's the product of an entire community, but I just want to try my best to take all those scattered bits of information, random tips and tricks, and put them in one place here and try to make it as clear as possible. Since Malenia is infamous for being one of the most difficult bosses FromSoft has ever made, I just wanted to put a little extra effort into this section than I have with some of the other boss fights that we've covered, and make sure that when you're fighting her, any struggle you face is basically just lack of practice and not a lack of knowledge about the fight. I also want to break this down in a way, I mean, this is my philosophy with every section of this video, every boss fight we've covered, but break this down in a way that you'll understand how to finish it with any build you want, not just show you how to cheese it with Rivers of Blood or something. You made it this far with the same build you've been using since the beginning of the game, and trust me, you can beat Malenia with it. I wrote the outline of this entire walkthrough using a character with a just standard affinity battle axe, and the Malenia fight was no exception. It did not do good damage, did not use a weapon art on it, didn't scale any higher than like a C rating, terrible range, not very fast, an all-around horrendous experience, and I will likely be too traumatized to ever pick up an axe in these games again. There are ways to make that weapon shine, but mine was intentionally unoptimized to make sure that whatever I tell you in this walkthrough will work for a build that's probably a lot worse than yours is. Now, I will still include all the cheese methods here too, because there's nothing wrong with a respec or swapping out some Ashes of War if that's what you do want to do, but I want you to be able to kill Malenia with the standard battle axe too. I just hope you never have to. So without further ado, let's get into it. General mechanics. Self-healing. One of the biggest challenges with this fight is that Malenia heals with every attack she lands on you. Your spirit summons, player summons, even if you block with a shield, any hit she lands is going to heal her. Since you can't control how good another player will be at dodging her, and most spirit summons don't really like dodging at all, you will want to be more aggressive if you do decide to summon. Take advantage of the extra opportunities to stagger her to make sure that your summons aren't eating entire attack combos and giving her free heals. Again, I want to emphasize that she will get the full healing effect even if the attack is blocked. If you don't believe me, you can mix an opaline bubble tier into your flask and let her hit you. The bubble will make you take almost no damage from the hit, and despite that, she will still get a big heal off of you. So it's worth learning how to roll through her attacks no matter what build you have. Playing defensively here is not going to really be a great option. Well, I guess rolling is sort of defensive, but you can't just tank this fight unless that's like you're just completely spec'd into tanking, completely min-maxed for that. It's not going to work for the average person. It's also worth noting that you cannot cancel her healing effect with Albinaric pots. That's an item I haven't really brought up in the walkthrough before, but you can use those to like not let other players use their flasks to heal. Does not work on her. So aside from not letting her hit you, there's just nothing you can really do to counter her self-healing. So don't get hit. She has pretty low poise. Malenia is fairly easy to stagger, so learning the ins and outs of her moveset can give you a huge advantage, as you'll know when you can sneak in a quick like rolling light attack or something to interrupt her. She can be stance broken as well, which opens her up to a critical attack. And lastly, you can also knock her down with abilities that would normally knock things down, like Aspect of the Crucible Horn or the Dragon Maw incantations, for example. If it would send a normal enemy flying, it should be able to do it to her as well. Projectile dodging. Malenia will avoid most projectiles, whether that be spells and incantations or throwable items like knives and pots. This means that for ranged builds, unlike many other enemies in the game where you can just hit them from range, you'll mostly have to rely on the same attack openings that melee users get, which means waiting for her to finish an attack combo, or if you're well positioned, casting or throwing items during her attack animations. There are a few exceptions, such as night sorceries and also lightning spears if you're using incantations. Those are also very reliable at hitting her, but if she's just in an idle animation like walking around, she is pretty much guaranteed to dodge your projectiles. After dodging your attack, she will briefly run straight at you, which you can use to your advantage in some cases. Sometimes at range, Malenia gets very passive and walks around slowly. She has a huge arena, so it's just kind of bound to happen. Using a throwing knife or something similar, any kind of projectile, forces her to dodge and then run at you for a second so you don't have to go to her. You also do want a lot of room to dodge most of her attacks, so if she's by the wall of the arena, you can stand in the pool in the middle of the room and use a quick throwing knife to force her to run back to the middle. Basically, you can always force her into an animation if you need to by throwing something at her, which can be exploited to bait out certain things, like her signature move, Waterfowl Dance, which I'll show in a second. Lastly, for general mechanics, she has a second phase. This is a 2-phase boss fight. Draining her entire health bar will trigger a cutscene, and phase 2 will start immediately after the cutscene ends, resulting in Malenia healing like 80% of her health or so. She also gains access to a few new moves in phase 2, but most notably, her attacks go from purely physical to also inflicting Scarlet Rot in phase 2, so not getting hit is even more important. And of course, she maintains the self-healing. Moving on to weaknesses and resistances. First of all, parrying. I wasn't sure if it would make more sense to include this in this section or the last one, but I think it would be considered a weakness. Most of Malenia's normal melee attacks can be parried, with the exception of her kick, uppercut slam, and grab. I also wouldn't call Waterfowl Dance a normal melee attack, and just to be clear, it cannot be parried. The downside to parrying is that you only get a crit opportunity after every third successful parry, and for that reason, I would generally advise against trying to beat her by parrying unless you're extremely confident in your parrying ability, just because of the fact that parrying is already a high-risk, high-reward move, and in this case, it's a high-risk, almost no-reward move for 2/3 of the time that you do it in this fight, since you only get the crit on every third one. If you do want to parry her though, I would recommend putting the Ash of War Golden Parry on your shield, because it's basically the best parry in the game with one of the lowest delays before the active parry frames start. It has the longest duration of active parry frames and can even parry from a short distance away, which means you don't have to be quite as close to Malenia for it to work. As far as absorptions and resistances, Malenia has the least amount of fire resistance, so if you had to pick an element to use, fire is your best bet. She has a whole lot of holy resistance, so holy damage is really the only damage type I would definitely advise against using. I believe she absorbs 40% of all incoming holy damage. It's a lot. It's really bad. You'll get a little more lightning damage if she's standing in the water in the arena, of course, and a little less fire damage if she's standing in the water, so keep that in mind too. For status effect resistances, she is very susceptible to frostbite and bleed, with frostbite being the most effective. Below that is sleep, which is hard to proc unless you're running a weapon that builds up sleep, since it's so tough to land sleeping pots on her with that innate dodging ability. She can technically be inflicted with poison and Scarlet Rot, surprisingly, but it takes a ton of damage to build up, so it's very hard to do, and unsurprisingly, she is immune to Madness and Deathblight. Interrupts. As I mentioned earlier, her low poise lets you stagger her out of some animations with your own basic attacks, but some of her attack animations do have hyper armor, and you won't be able to stagger her out of them by swinging your weapon. However, proccing Bleed or Frostbite will instantly interrupt any of her attacks, even Waterfowl Dance. This is partially why you'll see so many guides from Malenia using weapons like Rivers of Blood, for instance, to constantly proc Bleed, which not only obviously does a ton of damage, but it has that added bonus of interrupting her attacks. I won't go into detail about how to make an optimal Bleed build in this video, obviously, but this is me saying that they are extremely effective against Malenia, and if you want to try your luck with one, feel free to look up another video for making one. I'll go into more detail about this when I cover Waterfowl Dance later in the video, and really there's no reason for me to tell you that, because if you've gotten this far with a bleed build, you probably know that it's really good already. Now, as far as helpful equipment and just a general setup for anyone's build, all of Malenia's attacks deal heavy physical damage, and with the exception of Scarlet Rot buildup in Phase 2, it is purely physical. So the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman that we just got is fantastic. If you can spare the talisman slot, it's going to reduce all incoming physical damage by 20%. If you have 30 Faith, you can also stack this with the Black Flames Protection incantation, which will reduce the healing that you do by 20% for 70 seconds, but it will also increase your damage negation by 35% for that entire duration. So that can stack with the talisman for a total of 55% physical damage reduction. Over half of the physical damage you'd be taking will be reduced while those two things are active. It's worth noting that you can negate the healing debuff by equipping the Crimson Seed Talisman, but I personally don't think it's worth spending another talisman slot on that. If you want to go really crazy and you have at least 16 strength and 14 dexterity, you can two-hand the Commander's Standard that we got from Commander O'Neill, and you can use its unique weapon skill for 30 seconds of 20% increased damage and damage negation, which stacks again for an insane total 75% damage negation. If you were to combine Black Flames Protection, the Commander's Standard, and the Dragon Great Shield Talisman. Personally, I would usually skip the Commander's Standard though, because a lot of that 30-second window is eaten up by having to unequip it and actually approach Malenia, and leaving it equipped usually makes my character too heavy for the next piece of advice I have, which is this. Drop your equip load until you're at a light load. I cannot stress how much easier this fight will be and how many more mistakes you can make just by having access to the fastest roll in the game. There's so much more leniency with roll timing. One thing that many Malenia guides fail to mention is that certain attacks can only be avoided using the method shown in the video if you're fast rolling. Different rolls cover different distances and have a different number of iframes, so there are a select few points in the game that a medium roll just might not work. Surprisingly, I find the light roll most useful for just dodging Malenia's normal attack combos. It's not even necessarily just for dodging Waterfowl Dance. Since she's going to heal so much when you get hit anyway, having a bunch of armor isn't really going to help you all that much. Like I said earlier with her self-healing mechanic, we really just want to get to the point that she's not hitting you very often. If you're taking a ton of damage to the point that you really need that extra armor, you're probably just going to be drawing out the fight too much because she's going to be constantly topping off her health. The next thing I might recommend is the Raptor's Black Feathers and or the Claw Talisman. You will not get very long windows to counterattack Malenia, so you want to make sure each one really counts. Since you probably won't always have time to do a full charged heavy attack, jump attacks are a great alternative because they're much faster and they still do extra poise damage compared to a normal swing. If you're constantly landing jump attacks, you're more likely to poise break Malenia and leave her open to a critical hit. Now you can equip the Claw Talisman for plus 15% damage to jump attacks and stack that with the Raptor's Black Feathers chest piece for 10% more damage if you're still able to stay at a light load with this on. It's a pretty light piece of equipment, so if you have very much endurance at all, or you're using any equip load increasing talismans, then you should be able to afford to have this equipped. They're not going to increase the poise damage you do, but while you're building up that poise damage with jump attacks, you'll be hitting 15 to 25% harder with each jump attack in the meantime. Lastly would be a weapon with the Bloodhound Step weapon art. You can use the OG, the Bloodhound's Fang, or you can use Bloodhound Step on any other weapon. Well, I don't know. It can go on a lot of weapons, but hopefully it can go on whatever weapon you have if you're not using a unique weapon. This is just generally helpful if you don't want to spend the time learning how to dodge any of her attacks, but especially Waterfowl Dance in a more technical way. It's just the most overpowered dodge you can possibly have in the game. You can put it on a different weapon if you prefer, just don't forget to swap to it when you need it. The last thing I will say before I go in there is that if you are pretty comfortable with the windows you have between her attack combos, you can lean into more of a stance break playstyle, and if that's the case, I'd recommend mixing the Stone Barb Crack tier into your Wondrous Physic, because it's going to make the enemy stance more likely to break. You could also throw in the one that enhances charge attacks too if you're comfortable landing those, but that's what I'm going to do personally because I'm pretty comfortable with this fight, I think, and I know when I have a good opportunity for going in with some charged heavies to try to break her stance. Also, one more thing about talismans, if you do decide to go down to a light load, you might consider putting on the blue dancer charm because it'll increase your attack power with a lower equipment load. So, the elephant in the room for this fight is of course Waterfowl Dance, which we'll get to in a moment, but she can't do that until she reaches around 75 to 80% health, which means you can safely practice dodging everything else in her arsenal until that point. Now, the difficulty in her normal attacks is not really dodging them, but rather recognizing when you're safe to counterattack or heal. Until you recognize what the end of her combos looks like, it can feel like she just attacks you relentlessly and you never have a chance to heal or actually get a hit in. There are certain moves you want to look for which are guaranteed combo finishers and are a good opportunity to counterattack. The first is this attack here. She does these quick slashes and then follows up with a wide sweep. There are two speeds to that final sweep. One of them is faster and can be chained into more attacks, while the other is slower and marks the end of her attack combo, hence making it a good opportunity to attack her or heal. We also have her slams. If you're close, she'll do this delayed flying uppercut and follow it up with a downward slam, but if you're far away, she'll charge at you first to do the uppercut, and then do the slam after that. Either way, roll forward through that slam and you can get some free damage in. Those are the two best windows to go in for attacks in my opinion. After the slam, you even have time usually to get an entire charged heavy attack in, which is kind of crazy. As for the rest of her attacks, you'll need to be paying close attention to two things: your positioning and whether or not her attack has hyper armor. There are a couple standout attacks that come to mind that you will have a hard time interrupting with your own attacks, and those are her kick and this backhanded slash. Aside from those, you can interrupt nearly anything she throws at you with just a simple light attack. So as you get more comfortable with the fight, you'll notice these two conditions line up, where you're not only close enough to hit her with the light attack, but it's also safe to attack because whatever she's about to throw at you will get interrupted when you attack her. Start with just being super disciplined and only attacking during those big windows at the end of her combos that I pointed out before, and then once you're comfortable with that, you can start to mix in some light attacks to interrupt her combos like you see me do in this fight. A couple of other notable attacks are her thrust and the grab. Both of these involve her lunging really quickly at you and have really strong tracking, but I find that just rolling with them in the direction of her lunge is a great way to put you in position to land a quick counterattack. I'll basically always do a rolling R1 as I'm dodging these attacks, but the grab is very dangerous because it's going to hit you super hard, potentially one-shotting you if you don't have a lot of health, and it will also heal her a ton. So if you want to be safer and roll to the side, at least for the grab, that's not a bad idea either. Now then, Waterfowl Dance. Like I said, once she reaches that threshold of around 75 to 80% health, she unlocks the ability to use it, and she can use it the rest of the fight. She's not necessarily going to do it the second you cross that threshold. She could wait minutes if she wanted to, but she can always do it from there on out. Now this is going to sound dumb, and that's because it is. But the best way to know when she's gonna do it is just vibes, dude. And I'm not kidding. Countering Waterfowl Dance comes down to where you are in relation to Malenia, and the only way you can control where you are when she does it is to predict when she'll do it. And that's all we can do, is just predict it. However, there is a trick we can employ to sort of force it out of her when we get the vibe that she wants to do it, which leads us into the first Waterfowl Dance counter, and that is just being really far away. Before I go into that though, let me explain what this move actually consists of. There are 3 or 4 distinct stages to it. First, she jumps and floats in the air, and she can freely spin around, tracking you so that when she's ready to dash and actually start the attack, it'll be in your direction. She'll basically just try to land right on top of you. When she dashes at you, she's going to let off this monstrous flurry of slashes in the area around her. There are so many slashes that you genuinely don't even want to think of them as slashes. Literally just imagine she is a ball of death and you need to roll through the entire ball, not the sword. Anywhere that you see these slashes around her encompasses the area of this death ball that you want to be avoiding. Now the next stage, after she lands from that initial dash, she's going to turn to face you and lunge at you again while still slashing the entire area around her. And then finally, she's going to jump and dash over your head to land behind you and let off one final flurry of slashes while standing in the spot she landed. That first stage is by far the most dangerous, and as long as you don't panic after that, the rest is super easy to dodge. The easiest way to dodge it, like I said, is just to be super far away. She can only go so far with the first 2 dashes, so if you're kind of far away, you can just run away from the first one and only roll through the rest of them, or if you're very, very far away, you can just run away from the first and second stages of the attack. Pretty much no matter where you are though, she's going to jump over your head and behind you on that 3rd stage, so you will have to roll through that, but that part is easy, I promise. Now how do we make her do it when we're far away from her? Step 1 is to get the vibe that she wants to use Waterfowl Dance. If she has crossed the health threshold, she probably wants to do it. Like I said, it's not guaranteed she'll do it right after you hit that 75-80% health mark, but she'll probably try to do it once you do. Waterfowl Dance is by far the longest range move in her arsenal, so step 2 is to just run really far away. And then step 3 is to exploit that automatic projectile dodge I told you about earlier and cast a spell or throw a throwing knife at her, which will force her to dodge and follow up with some kind of action. Usually, if you're far enough away and she's able to do it, she will choose Waterfowl Dance as that action, because it's the quickest way for her to get close to you and kill you. But of course, being far away is the easiest way to dodge it, so it's okay that she's doing it. That's what we want. Basically, the whole idea here is to just run away and bait out Waterfowl Dance when she's super far away anytime you feel like she might be ready to use it. Is this a foolproof method? Not exactly. Like I said, she can use this ability as many times in a row as she wants. She just probably won't. It's definitely not unheard of for her to use Waterfowl Dance several times in a fight, but it's more likely that she only uses it 2 or 3 times tops. Sometimes you're just gonna get unlucky, it happens. But on average, she is not spamming this ability. And since we can't know for sure when she'll use it, the best we can do is play around when we feel like she'll use it, make sure we bait it out when we're ready for it, and hope she doesn't decide to use it again for a while. Genuinely, that is how I approach this fight. If I feel like she hasn't used it in a while and I'm paranoid that it's coming soon, I will run away and bait it out with this method. Since there's not an actual real cooldown for the ability, it's not guaranteed that we're buying ourselves some time before she uses it again, but it is unlikely that she uses it again right away, and that's just the best we can do. Now if I'm up close, I like to use the circle method, which can be done locked on or unlocked depending on which one feels better for you. I want to emphasize though that you need to be right underneath her to make this work, because you essentially have to wind up behind her before she actually launches the attack. So going back to the thing I said earlier, if you plan to use this method, start staying really close to her when you get the vibe that she will want to use Waterfowl Dance soon. So the idea here is that while she's spinning in air and tracking us before her first dash, she can only rotate so fast to face us, and if we strafe around her to the left to try to get behind her, we can circle her faster than she can keep up, so when she does commit to dashing to us, she dashes to where we were a second ago, not where we are now. Once she actually starts that movement of dashing towards us, she is locked onto the position that she saw us at right before she started dashing. She can turn and track us all day, but once she commits to that dash, she is going to one place. She cannot change her route, her trajectory. She is going to where we just were. Now when Malenia jumps, there's an invisible barrier directly underneath her, and we want to circle that. Imagine there's a statue of Malenia just standing still under her while she's floating. That's like the best way I can describe it. If you want to go unlocked, you just sprint circles around that statue as close to it as you can. And then you're going to roll away from her the second that she commits to her dash and hope it goes over your head behind you. As for the locked on method, I've heard and seen it done all kinds of ways. Some people say you have to strafe around that circle and then roll. Some say to sprint and then roll. But I think the most important thing is just that you're making a tight circle around her, forcing her to turn to face you, and you once again time your roll for when she commits to the dash. Whichever way you do it, just roll a couple times to get out of range of her initial combo, then time your next roll with her next dash. This one is not hard to react to. Get your bearings after that first combo and time this dash properly. Just stay calm. Then she's going to go for that final dash right over your head. So you roll forward through that and keep moving in that direction since she'll land right behind you. Again, the first part is by far the hardest, but even if you get clipped by it, as long as you don't die, you're fine. Just don't panic and time the rest of the rolls out, because every other stage of the attack is easy to roll through. You'll see in these clips that there are times that I just get annihilated by the first flurry of attacks, but I stay calm and dodge the rest just fine. Now what do you do if you're not close enough for the circle method, but not far enough away for the long range method?
You have options. First of all, remember what I just said. You'll probably get ripped to shreds by the first flurry of slashes, but if you do manage to survive that, remember each stage of the attack and know that you can still roll through the latter half of it. You'll probably already be dead if you don't have a lot of vigor. That's just going to depend on each individual player, unfortunately. But my favorite method, and something you can do at close or medium range, is the status effect stun. Malenia has really low frostbite resistance, to the point that a single freezing pot will proc frostbite. Each time you proc a status effect, it'll take more status buildup to trigger it a second time on the same enemy, but Malenia's frostbite resistance is actually so low that you can proc frostbite with a single freezing pot twice. If you want to do it a third time, you would have to land 2 pots back to back, and obviously you don't have time to throw 2 pots in the short window that she's hovering at the start of Waterfowl Dance. She will not reset her status effect resistances in Phase 2 though, so you can only stop 2 Waterfowl Dances this way through the entire fight. Phase 1 and 2 basically counts as the exact same thing. That might be all you need though, and you can of course employ any other counter if she does Waterfowl Dance more than twice. A couple other things to mention about this method: if you have another source of frostbite, obviously that's going to contribute to the frostbite buildup, so this isn't really going to work if you're running frostbite from spells or on your weapon or something. You have to save the frostbite procs for only the throwing pots to interrupt Waterfowl Dance. Frostbite also has a 30-second cooldown. You can reset it immediately if you hit her with some sort of fire damage, so that's something to keep in mind. But if she decides to use Waterfowl Dance twice in less than a 30-second window, then you won't be able to instantly hit her with another frostbite. And lastly, this will also work if you manage to proc bleed, but her bleed resistance is higher than frostbite, so there's not as reliable a way to do it. But if you are running a bleed build, you're probably going to be getting lots of bleed procs, and if you're lucky and one happens as she's going for Waterfowl Dance, that will also interrupt it. But those would be my top 3 favorite and most reliable counters: circle method up close, freezing pots close to mid-range, and baiting her with a throwing knife at long range. A couple other options you have: Bloodhound Step, as I mentioned earlier. It's just an insanely long range dodge. You can use it instead of rolling to get you through any of the other methods I mentioned. Anywhere I told you to roll, you can use Bloodhound Step and it'll basically just be easier. You can also block Waterfowl Dance, believe it or not. However, there are 2 big downsides. It takes a ton of stamina, and she gets healed for each hit she lands, regardless of whether it's blocked or not. The good news is you can partially alleviate both of those problems. Chances are, if you're planning to block, you've been using a decent shield for most of the game anyway, but if not, you want something that has 100% physical damage negation and a decent guard boost. Physical negation part is pretty self-explanatory, but guard boost is a stat that determines how much stamina blocking an attack will cost. The higher the guard boost, the less stamina you need to block. You can boost your guard boost by using the Ash of War Barricade shield on your shield, or using the Great Shield Talisman, or ideally just both. As far as countering Malenia's healing ability, yes, she will heal when you block no matter what, but as you've seen with the previous clips, dodging the second and third flurries really isn't difficult, so you can minimize the healing she gets by blocking the first flurry only and dodging the rest. Now for Phase 2, it's going to begin immediately after a cutscene with a Scarlet Aeonia. Instead of giving a general explanation of Phase 2 as a whole right now, I'm actually just going to go over her new moves first, because similar to Phase 1, the key is just learning when her combos are over so you can safely counterattack, and a lot of her new moves would fall into the category of combo finishers, so it would make more sense for me to elaborate after I explain the new attacks. Starting with Scarlet Aeonia. As soon as she lands, a massive explosion will happen, and the flower it creates will take a good 5 or so seconds to fade away. During this time, the entire space that the flower occupies will inflict a damage over time effect and build up Scarlet Rot if you stand in it. Malenia will be completely immobile in the center of it, however, so this is the best time in the fight to not only heal or buff, but also cast your hardest hitting range spells, since she's not going to try to dodge it. As the flower is almost completely faded away, you can run into attack with melee as well. You might take a little chip damage from the flower if you go too early, but not a significant amount. Malenia will start Phase 2 with this every single time, but she can repeat it throughout the fight as part of her normal moveset if she wants to. To dodge, you have a few options. The simplest by far is to just simply immediately drop lock on and sprint almost straight forward, but very slightly to the side. You can't go quite straight underneath her because there's an invisible barrier directly underneath her, similar to Waterfowl Dance. But the tracking on this move essentially works the same way as Waterfowl Dance, so she's going to track perfectly until she commits to dashing at you, at which point she's stuck going to one position. If If you're sprinting underneath her, you'll be moving fast enough that she dashes to where you were a second ago, not where you are right now. Another way to dodge it is to simply roll through it. The explosion is slightly delayed, so there's plenty of time to roll through the initial slam and then time a roll or two to get out of range of the explosion. Next is the Scarlet Explosion. In Phase 2, basically any slam Malenia does will create a Scarlet Rot explosion. The Scarlet Aeonia is a special case since she flies much higher, it's very telegraphed, makes a much larger explosion, and it's not really a part of any combos, just its own unique attack. However, she gains a new move that she likes to end combos with, where she'll jump into the air and then slam back down, which does a lot of damage on its own, but it will also create a small vortex on the ground where her weapon lands that releases a delayed Scarlet Rot explosion, which also of course deals heavy damage and applies Scarlet Rot. You can roll in any direction to dodge the slam, but be aware that the explosion will always happen in front of her where her sword hits the ground. So it's ideal to not roll straight backwards because you might have to roll a second time to avoid that delayed explosion. On the other hand, if you roll sideways or forward to get behind her, the explosion is pretty small, so you can usually safely hit her in the back while the explosion goes off. She also has this dive bomb comboed into a thrust in Phase 2. She'll fly into the air, swoop down from the left while swinging her sword. You can simply roll left to dodge through it, and then be prepared immediately to dodge a follow-up thrust attack that looks pretty much exactly the same as the one from the first phase, but it's just not telegraphed by a jump. It is, however, telegraphed by her landing after she swoops down from that first attack. Lastly, for new moves in Phase 2, the Phantom Clones. She's going to fly high into the air similar to Scarlet Aeonia, so you won't confuse this one with any other attacks. This one can be very tricky depending on positioning. It's similar to Waterfowl Dance in that it's completely possible but fairly technical to roll through it at close range, but if you're relatively far away when she starts it, you can basically just run backwards and avoid most of it. So to dodge it, there are 6 Phantoms essentially, and then after all 6 Phantoms, Malenia herself will come down for a super fast swooping thrust attack. The first 4 Phantoms can easily be dodged on reaction, and I typically just run and roll backwards to get as far away as possible, but Phantoms number 5 and 6, instead of swooping down from up above and being super easy to see coming, they are very quickly going to come in from the sides of your screen with some quick thrusting attacks. So what I like to do, like I said, for the first 4 Phantoms is just roll and run backwards towards the screen basically. And then once I see that 4th Phantom coming down, I know that the 5th one is going to come in basically instantly right behind it, so I start rolling to the left instead of backwards. And like I said, those last 2 Phantoms are going to come in super fast, so as soon as they're done attacking, Malenia is going to swoop in as well, so be ready for that. And like I said, it's a big thrust, so you can just roll to the side of that as well. Despite how long and intense this attack is, surprisingly it's not a very good opportunity for a counterattack. Malenia can usually just go back into attacking you normally as soon as it's over, unfortunately. Side note, it can be blocked with a sturdy shield. The Phantoms, despite being summoned by the Goddess of Rot herself, don't inflict any Scarlet Rot damage, so a 100% physical negation shield will stop all of their damage. They also don't heal Malenia when they hit you. However, Malenia will heal herself if she lands that final thrust, so if you do decide to block, I would still definitely recommend rolling through her final attack. The big thing to keep in mind with Phase 2 is that most of her combos are going to be extremely similar to Phase 1, just longer and often with a flashier finisher, whether it be her new standalone jump up and slam down with that Scarlet Explosion, or a Scarlet Explosion variant of one of the slams from Phase 1. She looks a lot different physically, but if you really watch her movements, the fight doesn't really change very much. If you took the time to really familiarize yourself with Phase 1, then Phase 2 is almost the same, you just have to be a bit more patient to wait out those long combos. If you were struggling with Phase 1, then Phase 2 is, well, honestly just way worse. The best advice I can really give is to just trust yourself that you know how to dodge her attacks from Phase 1, and to not get distracted by the fact that she now has giant wings and has ascended to godhood, which I know is easier said than done, but it's true. Hopefully you found something helpful in all that explanation, and I will just go ahead and play out a full attempt here, no commentary, and you can watch how I do it. Oh, and actually, last and most importantly, just summon, dude. Who cares?
my brother. I'm sorry. I finally met my match.
Alright, so back to the live commentary. As you saw there, defeating Malenia will reward you with Malenia's Great Rune and the Remembrance of the Rot Goddess. You can trade the Remembrance for the Scarlet Aeonia incantation or her weapon, Hand of Malenia. And unfortunately, that's just the name of her sword. You unfortunately do not get the whole prosthetic arm that was holding it, which would be sick, but you know. You can also purchase her armor from Enya back around Table Hold, and as soon as you defeat her, make sure you grab the Site of Grace and rest to reset the area, which will cause this giant scarlet flower to spawn in the middle. Approach it and you get this option to return the unalloyed golden needle, which gets you Miquella's needle and a somber ancient dragon smithing stone. And that right there marks the official end of Millicent's questline. So now that we have killed Malenia, warp back to Round Table Hold. This is the last bit of intel that we need to give to Gideon for his questline. So talk to him, choose the Haligtree Roots option, and exhaust his dialogue to get your reward, which for defeating Malenia is the Lord's Divine Fortification incantation. And that is, like I said, the final reward from Gideon. So now, let's go warp to Underground Roadside, and we'll go hand in those seedbed curses we picked up in this episode. Like I said, whether you got an extra one from Blackguard Bogart or you did not, you should either way have 5 or 6 of them in total. So that means that we can wrap up Dung Eater's questline and unlock that ending. So we'll run down here past all these rats. Past all the flowers too, and up this ladder. And if I remember correctly, you automatically just give him however many you're carrying. So talk to him, use the seedbed curse. Screen will go black, skip through that, and yes, he is dead. So receive the mending rune. It's so weird to look at how it just always faces you. But get the mending rune of the Fell Curse, which unlocks the Blessing of Despair ending for the game. Friendly reminder once again, that does not lock you into that ending. You will merely have the choice to pursue it when you get to that point in the game. And then you can save and quit and reload the area. And you get his armor set as well there. And then warp to the Divine Bridge here in Lanedale. And we will run straight ahead and over to the left here to go through this way gate that we've been ignoring for the entire game. Actually, I don't even think it unlocks. Maybe it does, but you can't do anything with it until you kill Malenia. So this will take us to the isolated Divine Tower, way out here in the middle of nowhere. Crack that open and ride this lift to the top. activate that grace. And finally interact with the 2 fingers here to restore the power of Malenia's Great Rune. So her Great Rune is essentially, it sort of mimics the rally mechanic from Bloodborne. While it's active, getting hit will give you roughly a 5-second window to regenerate health by dealing damage to enemies in that 5-second window. It's based on the most recent time you got hit, so you can't regenerate all recent damage if you're getting hit a lot by multiple attacks. But there will be a faint red bar over your health bar showing how much HP you can regenerate. The downside is that Crimson Flasks will only heal 70% of their normal amount while the rune is active, but only while it's active, meaning you don't get the self-heal effect or the nerf to your flask unless you consume a rune arc first. But with that, that is the end of this episode. We made it through the Haligtree, made it through Malenia. Hopefully you made it through Malenia. I hope breaking down that boss fight a little more than usual helps you get through it a bit easier. But next time we will move on right over there to that tornado to Fair Missoula, and I think if all goes to plan, that should be the second to last episode of the walkthrough, and after that we will finish this game up finally. So looking forward to that. I will see you in the next episode. Have a good one.